At 6, on a gray Missouri morning, Samuel Briggs heard something move inside the old chicken coop behind his farmhouse. At first, he thought it was a raccoon. The coop had been empty for years, leaning like an old man too tired to stand straight. Rainwater dripped through the broken roof. The door hung crooked on one hinge. No one had any reason to go in there unless they were desperate, foolish, or trying to steal what little he had left. Samuel pulled on his boots, took the flashlight from the kitchen drawer, and stepped into the wet yard. The grass soaked the cuffs of his pants. Somewhere beyond the fence, a rooster gave a weak, confused cry. When he reached the coop, he lifted the latch with 2 fingers. "Who's in there?" he called. No answer came. He pushed the door open. The beam of his flashlight landed first on a torn canvas bag, then on a pair of muddy sneakers, then on a boy, maybe 13, sitting up fast in a pile of damp straw. The boy had one arm wrapped around a much smaller child who was shivering under a jacket too thin for the cold. Samuel's face hardened. "What are you doing in my coop?" The older boy moved in front of the little one before he answered. "Sir," he said, his voice rough from cold, "we weren't stealing." Samuel looked at the wet straw, the blue lips of the smaller boy, and the way the older one held himself like a wall. "I just needed somewhere dry for my brother." Before we continue, subscribe and leave a like if stories like this remind you that kindness can still change a life. Tell us where you are watching from. Sometimes, the quietest stories travel the farthest because they carry something every heart understands. 3 weeks earlier, Noah Miller still believed that grief had a bottom. He thought that if a person cried hard enough, hurt long enough, and stayed quiet when adults told him to be strong, eventually the pain would stop falling. But after his father's funeral, Noah learned that some losses did not end when the casket disappeared beneath the ground. Some losses followed you home and waited for the next thing to be taken. Thomas Miller had not left much behind. A work jacket with a torn cuff, a dented lunch pail, a photograph of him holding both boys at a county fair, Ben still a baby on his hip, and Noah grinning with 2 missing front teeth. There was also a small stack of unpaid bills Aunt Linda kept on top of her refrigerator, as if leaving them in plain sight would remind the whole house that the Miller boys had arrived with trouble attached to them. Aunt Linda was not cruel in the loud way. Her cruelty was neater than that. It came in measured size, in cupboards closed too hard, in the way she looked at Ben's plate before he had even finished eating. "Slow down," she would say, though Ben was barely chewing. Food costs money. Noah learned quickly to eat less. If there were 3 pieces of toast, he gave Ben 2 and said he was not hungry. If there was chicken at supper, Noah picked at the smallest piece and said he did not like dark meat anyway. At night, when Ben woke up asking for their father, Noah pulled him close on the narrow mattress they shared and whispered, "He'd want you to sleep, Benny." "Is he cold?" Ben asked once. Noah stared into the dark. "No," he said. "Dad's not cold." He did not know whether it was true. He only knew Ben needed it to be. Aunt Linda had taken them in because there had been nowhere else to send them. That was what she told people at church and at the grocery store. She said it with the tired pride of someone who wanted credit for a burden. "I'm doing what family does," she said. But inside the house, family felt like something Noah and Ben had to earn every day and never quite managed to keep. Noah washed dishes until his fingers reddened in cold water. He swept the porch, carried firewood, folded laundry, and kept Ben quiet whenever Aunt Linda's headaches came. He did not complain. Complaining was dangerous. It made adults remember you were there. Ben tried to help too, in the clumsy way of a 7-year-old who wanted to be useful. Once, he spilled milk on the floor and stood frozen, eyes wide, as Aunt Linda pressed her fingers to her temples. "That child," she said, not looking at him directly, "is like another Bill walking around my house." Noah stepped forward with a towel before Ben could cry. "It was my fault," he said. Aunt Linda looked at him. "It usually is." After that, Noah started saving coins. They were not much. A quarter found under the washing machine. 3 dimes Aunt Linda dropped beside her purse. A nickel from the church parking lot. He hid them in an old sock behind the loose board at the back of the closet. He did not know what he was saving for. Only that every evening, when Aunt Linda counted envelopes on the kitchen table and muttered about groceries, electricity, medicine, and school clothes, Noah felt the floor beneath him getting thinner. One night, he heard his name from the kitchen. He stopped in the hallway, one hand on the wall, Ben asleep behind him. Aunt Linda was on the phone. Her voice was low, but the house was old, and old houses carried words through cracks. "I can't keep doing this," she said. "One child would be hard enough. But two? Two is impossible." Then she said, colder this time, "The little one maybe. Somebody might take him. But Noah is practically grown. He can work. He's not helpless." Practically grown. Noah looked down at his red, scratched hands. They were still a boy's hands. Behind him, Ben turned in his sleep. Noah went back to the room quietly. He sat on the edge of the mattress and watched his brother breathe. Ben had one arm wrapped around their father's photograph, the corner of it bent under his cheek. For the first time since the funeral, Noah understood that losing their father might not be the last thing that happened to them. And somewhere in the kitchen, Aunt Linda kept talking, deciding the future of two boys as if they were boxes she no longer had room to store. The next morning, Aunt Linda made pancakes. That was how Noah knew something was wrong. She never made pancakes on weekdays. Most mornings, breakfast was toast, oatmeal, or whatever could be put on the table without using too much butter. But that morning the kitchen smelled sweet, and Ben came running in with his hair still messy, smiling for the first time in days. "Pancakes?" he asked. Aunt Linda did not smile back. "Sit down before they get cold." Noah stood in the doorway, watching her move around the stove. Her face looked calm in a way that frightened him. Not angry, not tired, calm, like someone who had already made a decision and only needed the morning to catch up with it. Ben climbed into his chair and reached for the syrup. "Not too much," Aunt Linda said. Noah sat beside his brother. He looked at the plate in front of him, then at the small suitcase near the back door. It was brown, cracked at the corners, and not one he had seen before. "What's that?" Noah asked. Aunt Linda kept her eyes on the pan. "Eat first." Noah did not pick up his fork. Ben did. He took one bite and closed his eyes as if breakfast alone could make the world gentle again. After a minute, Aunt Linda turned off the stove and placed both hands on the counter. "I made some calls," she said. Noah felt his stomach tighten. "What kind of calls?" "The kind adults have to make when things get too hard." Ben looked up with syrup at the corner of his mouth. "Are we in trouble?" "No," Noah said quickly. Aunt Linda looked at him. "Don't answer for me." The kitchen went quiet except for the ticking clock above the sink. Aunt Linda pulled out a chair and sat down across from them. She folded her hands neatly, like she was about to discuss church donations instead of two children's lives. "I can't keep both of you," she said. Ben stopped chewing. Noah's hand moved under the table and found his brother's knee. Aunt Linda continued, "I've tried. I have. But this house isn't made for 3 people, and money doesn't stretch just because children need it to. Ben is young enough that arrangements can be made." "What arrangements?" Noah asked. His voice came out too sharp. Aunt Linda's eyes narrowed. "Watch your tone." "What arrangements?" he repeated, softer this time. "There are families, programs, people who know what to do with little ones." Ben looked from Aunt Linda to Noah. "I'm not going somewhere else." Noah felt the words hit him like cold water. "No," he said. "He stays with me." Aunt Linda leaned back. "Noah, you're 13. You're old enough to understand reality. I understand he's my brother. You are not his parent." Noah looked down at his plate. The pancakes had gone soft under the syrup. He could not swallow. Aunt Linda sighed, the way she always did when she wanted to sound patient. "Your father should have planned better." The room changed after that. Noah had heard hard words before. He had been called stubborn, ungrateful, too serious for his age. But this was different. This was Aunt Linda reaching into the only place he still kept safe and putting blame there. Their father had worked with bad knees and tired hands. He had taken extra shifts. He had fixed neighbors' fences for $20 and patched roofs in weather no man should climb through. He had not failed them because he wanted to. He had simply run out of time. Noah stood up. "We can work," he said. "I can work. I can pay for food. Just don't send Ben away." Aunt Linda's mouth tightened. "Listen to yourself. You're a child talking like a grown man because no grown man is here to do it for you." Ben began to cry quietly. Noah turned to him. "Don't, Benny. It's okay." "It's not okay," Ben whispered. "I don't want a new family." Aunt Linda pushed back from the table. "Go get your things." Noah did not move. Now, the suitcase by the door was not for Aunt Linda. It was for them. Noah packed slowly, because packing fast made it feel real. He put in 2 shirts for Ben, 1 pair of socks, their father's photograph, and the small toy truck Ben slept with when he missed him too badly. He slipped his sock of coins from behind the loose closet board and buried it deep beneath the clothes. Aunt Linda came to the doorway once. That all? Noah looked around the room that had never felt like theirs. Yes. She drove them out after breakfast. Ben sat in the middle of the back seat, pressed so close to Noah that their shoulders touched. The suitcase rested at their feet. Aunt Linda kept both hands on the wheel and said very little. They passed the school. Ben turned his head. Are we going to class? No, Aunt Linda said. They passed the grocery store. They passed the church. They passed the last row of houses where town gave way to fields, ditches, and long strips of fence. Noah watched every landmark disappear behind them and understood that she was taking them somewhere no one would see easily. Aunt Linda, he said, where are we going? She did not answer. The road turned from pavement to gravel. The car bumped over ruts filled with last night's rain. Cows lifted their heads as they passed. A crow flew low over a field. Finally, Aunt Linda pulled over beside a narrow dirt road where weeds grew high along the ditch. She put the car in park. For a moment, nobody moved. Then she said, "Get out." Ben looked at Noah. Noah opened the door slowly. The air outside smelled of wet grass and mud. He helped Ben down, then reached for the suitcase. Aunt Linda took something from her purse and pressed it into Noah's palm. $3.47. That should get you something to eat, she said. Noah stared at the coins. You're leaving us here? Aunt Linda looked through the windshield. You're smart. You'll figure something out. Ben is saving, and you're old enough to keep him calm. Ben began to panic then. I want to go home. Aunt Linda's face tightened, not with sadness, but with impatience. There is no home to go back to, she said. Noah stepped closer to the car. Please, just take Ben. I'll go if you want me gone, but don't leave him on the road. For the first time, Aunt Linda looked at him fully, and for one terrible second, Noah thought she might agree. Then she said, Don't make this harder than it already is. She pulled the door shut. Ben screamed her name when the car started moving. Noah grabbed him before he could run after it. The tires spun over the wet gravel. The car rolled forward, faster and faster, until it became a pale shape beyond the dust and mist. Then it turned at the far bend and disappeared completely. Ben sobbed into Noah's shirt. Is she coming back? Noah looked at the empty road, the suitcase at his feet, and the miles of fields around them. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to be 7 years old again and believe adults always came back when children cried hard enough. Instead, he placed one hand on the back of Ben's head and held him close. Not tonight, he said. And with the sky darkening over the Missouri fields, Noah Miller picked up the suitcase, took his little brother's hand, and started walking. The next morning, Aunt Linda made pancakes. That was how Noah knew something was wrong. She never made pancakes on weekdays. Most mornings, breakfast was toast, oatmeal, or whatever could be placed on the table without using too much butter. But that morning, the kitchen smelled sweet, and Ben came in rubbing his eyes, smiling for the first time in days. Pancakes? He asked. Aunt Linda did not smile back. Sit down before they get cold. Noah stopped in the doorway. Near the back door sat a small brown suitcase with cracked corners. It was not Aunt Linda's. It was too old, too small, and too empty-looking. What's that? Noah asked. Eat first, Aunt Linda said. Ben climbed into his chair and reached for the syrup. Noah sat beside him, but did not touch his fork. Aunt Linda turned off the stove, wiped her hands on a towel, and sat across from them. I made some calls, she said. Noah felt his stomach tighten. What kind of calls? The kind adults have to make when things get too hard. Ben looked up. Are we in trouble? No, Noah said quickly. Aunt Linda's eyes moved to him. Don't answer for me. The kitchen went quiet. Then she said, I can't keep both of you. Ben stopped chewing. Noah's hand found his brother's knee under the table. Aunt Linda continued, Ben is still young. Arrangements can be made for him. But you, Noah, are 13. You're old enough to understand reality. No, Noah said. He stays with me. You are not his parent. I'm his brother, and that does not pay for food, school clothes, or electricity. Noah looked down at the pancakes turning soft on his plate. I can work. I can help more. Just don't send him away. Aunt Linda sighed. Your father should have planned better. The words landed harder than any slap. Their father had worked with bad knees and tired hands. He had taken extra shifts, fixed fences for neighbors, patched roofs in bad weather, and still come home with enough gentleness left to lift Ben onto his shoulders. He had not failed them because he wanted to. He had simply run out of time. Ben's eyes filled with tears. I don't want a new family. Noah leaned closer. You won't get one, I promise. Aunt Linda stood. Go pack your things. The suitcase by the door was for them. Noah packed slowly because moving fast made it feel real. 2 shirts for Ben, 1 pair of socks. Their father's photograph, Ben's little toy truck. Then, when Aunt Linda was not looking, Noah pulled his hidden sock of coins from behind the loose closet board and buried it under the clothes. Aunt Linda drove them out after breakfast. Ben sat pressed against Noah in the back seat. The suitcase rested at their feet. They passed the school, then the grocery store, then the church. After that, the houses thinned out until there were only fields, fences, and long ditches full of rainwater. Aunt Linda, Noah asked, where are we going? She kept both hands on the wheel. The road turned from pavement to gravel. The car bumped over muddy ruts. Cows lifted their heads as they passed. A crow flew low over the field. Finally, Aunt Linda pulled over beside a narrow dirt road lined with weeds. Get out, she said. Noah stared at her. Here? Get your suitcase. He helped Ben down first, then reached for the bag. Aunt Linda took a few bills and coins from her purse and pressed them into Noah's palm. $3.47. That should get you something to eat, she said. Ben looked around at the empty road. Are we waiting here? Noah did not answer. You're leaving us? He asked. Aunt Linda looked through the windshield. You're smart. You'll figure something out. Ben is safe, and you're old enough to keep him calm. Ben began to cry. I want to go home. Aunt Linda's face tightened. There is no home to go back to. Noah stepped closer to the car. Please, just take Ben. I'll go if you want me gone, but don't leave him here. For one terrible second, Noah thought she might agree. Instead, she pulled the door shut. The engine started. Ben screamed her name and tried to run after the car, but Noah caught him around the waist and held him back. The tires rolled over wet gravel. The car moved down the road, smaller and smaller, until it turned behind a line of trees and disappeared. Ben sobbed into Noah's shirt. Is she coming back? Noah looked at the empty road, the suitcase at his feet, and the gray Missouri sky above them. He wanted to say yes. Instead, he held Ben tighter. Not tonight, he whispered. Then Noah picked up the suitcase, took his brother's hand, and started walking. Noah did not know where the road led. He only knew they could not stay where Aunt Linda had left them. For a while, neither brother spoke. Ben's small hand stayed locked inside Noah's, damp and trembling. Every few steps, Noah looked back, not because he believed the car would return, but because some frightened part of him still listened for tires on gravel. There was nothing, only fields, a sagging wire fence, and the gray Missouri sky pressing down like a wet blanket. My feet hurt, Ben whispered. Noah stopped beside the ditch and knelt to check his brother's shoes. One lace had come loose. One sole was peeling at the front, just as it had for weeks while Aunt Linda said there was no point buying new shoes before school. Noah tied the laces carefully. We'll rest soon. Where? Noah looked down the empty road. Somewhere dry. It was a promise he had not yet found a way to keep. They walked until the gravel road met a wider one. A pickup passed once, slowing just long enough for the driver to stare. Noah straightened his back and pulled Ben closer, afraid the man might stop, and more afraid he would not. The truck kept going. By noon, they sat beneath a leaning oak. Noah opened the suitcase and took out the dry piece of bread Aunt Linda had packed. He broke it in half, then quietly broke his half again when he saw how fast Ben ate. You need some too, Ben said. I had more pancakes than you. No, you didn't. Noah forced a smile. You were too busy with syrup to count. Ben almost smiled back. They found water behind a closed country church. The white paint had peeled from the steps, and 3 letters were missing from the sign out front. Noah let Ben drink first from the spigot, then filled an old soda bottle he found near the fence, rinsing it until he could trust it. When they reached the first house, Noah nearly kept walking. It was small, with a rusted mailbox, broken flower pots on the porch, and smoke rising from the chimney. It looked like the kind of house where someone might have soup on the stove. Ben saw it too. Can we ask? Noah looked at the door. Asking meant explaining. Explaining meant adults asking where they came from, why they were alone, and who should be called. If the wrong person was called, Ben might be taken from him before nightfall. But the clouds were getting darker. Stay behind me, Noah said. He climbed the porch steps and knocked. A woman opened the door only as wide as the chain allowed. She had tired eyes and flour on one sleeve. Yes? Noah took off his cap because his father had taught him to do that at doors. Ma'am, do you have any small work I could do? Sweep your porch, carry wood, anything. My brother and I just need a little food. Her eyes moved from Noah to Ben, then to the suitcase. Where are your parents? Noah swallowed. Gone. Gone where? He could not answer quickly enough. Her face changed. Not mean exactly. Careful. I can't get involved, she said. I'm sorry. The door closed. Ben stared at it as if doors could change their minds. Noah stepped off the porch. His cheeks burned, but he kept his voice calm. She didn't have work. Ben nodded, though both of them knew that was not what she had said. The first drops of rain came an hour later. At first, Noah tried to ignore them. He kept scanning the land for a barn, a shed, even an abandoned car with a roof. But the road bent through open pasture, and the rain grew harder, darkening Ben's sleeves and running down Noah's neck. Under a cedar tree, Noah opened the suitcase and took out their father's old flannel shirt. It still smelled faintly of tobacco, motor oil, and home. He wrapped it around Ben's shoulders. No, Ben said. That's Dad's. Dad would want you warm. What about you? I'm fine. This time Ben did not argue. He was too tired. Near dusk, they reached a small gas station with one working pump and a flickering sign. Noah counted Aunt Linda's money, then the hidden coins from his sock. $5.65. Enough for something, not enough for long. Inside, the clerk looked up from a little television. He was a heavy man with a gray beard, and the kind of face that expected trouble before it arrived. Noah chose the cheapest crackers and 2 small cartons of milk. You boys out here by yourselves? The clerk asked. Noah placed the money on the counter. Just buying these. That's not what I asked. Ben pressed against Noah's side. The clerk glanced toward the phone on the wall. Noah imagined a police car, a county office, Ben crying in a room Noah could not enter. He pushed the coins closer. We don't want trouble, sir. The man studied him, then took the money and slid the food across the counter. Get on home, he muttered. Yes, sir. Noah did not tell him they had no home to get to. They ate outside under the narrow awning, making the crackers last. Ben drank his milk in small sips. Noah drank only half of his and saved the rest in the suitcase. Can we sleep here? Ben asked. Noah saw the clerk watching through the glass. No. They moved on. Night came early beneath the clouds. The fields turned black at the edges. Frogs called from ditches full of rainwater. Every farmhouse they passed seemed too bright, too full of people who belonged inside. Noah's arm ached from carrying the suitcase. Ben had stopped asking questions, and that worried Noah more than crying would have. Then, beyond a split-rail fence, Noah saw a lane. It was barely more than 2 tire tracks through the grass. At the end stood a farmhouse with one yellow light burning in a downstairs window. Behind it, near a line of bare trees, was a low wooden building with a slanted roof. A chicken coop. Noah stood still. The farmhouse meant danger. Someone could come out angry. Someone could call the sheriff. But the coop looked forgotten. Its roof sagged. One door hung partly open. Weeds grew high around the steps, and the fence beside it had collapsed into the mud. Ben followed his gaze. What is it? A place to get out of the rain. Do we ask? Noah looked at the lit window. He thought of the woman behind the chained door. He thought of the clerk looking at the phone. He thought of Aunt Linda saying Ben was young enough that arrangements could be made. Then, he looked at his brother's wet hair and pale face. Not at the house, he said. They waited until the yellow light went dark. Noah led Ben along the fence line, keeping low and quiet. The mud sucked at their shoes. Somewhere nearby, an animal stirred. Ben gripped the back of Noah's jacket but did not make a sound. At the coop door, Noah paused. I'm not stealing, he whispered, though no one had accused him yet. He pushed the door open just enough for them to slip inside. The smell came first. Old straw, damp wood, feathers, and animals that had been neglected but not entirely gone. Water dripped in 3 places. The floor was muddy near the door, but in the far corner, beneath a broken nesting shelf, there was a patch of straw almost dry. Something moved in the shadows. Ben gasped. A thin brown hen stepped from behind a crate, watching them with one bright, suspicious eye. Noah let out the breath he had been holding. "It's just a chicken." "There's chickens here?" "A few, maybe." "Are they hungry too?" Noah looked at the empty feeder, the dirty water pan, and the hen's sharp little bones beneath her feathers. "Yeah," he said softly. "I think they are." He set the suitcase in the dry corner and helped Ben sit. Then he shook the wet from their father's flannel and wrapped it tighter around his brother. Ben's eyelids were already heavy. "Will the chicken mind?" he whispered. "No, we'll be quiet. Will Aunt Linda come tomorrow?" Noah sat beside him and pulled him close. Rain tapped against the broken roof. The old coop creaked in the wind. In the dark, the thin hen settled back onto her perch, as if accepting that these 2 lost boys were no more dangerous than the weather. "No," Noah whispered at last. "But I'm here." Ben leaned against him. That was enough for one night. Noah stayed awake long after his brother slept, listening to every sound outside. He did not know the name of the farm. He did not know who lived in the house. He did not know that before sunrise, the old man who owned it would open that crooked door and find them there. He only knew that Ben was out of the rain. And for Noah Miller, that was the closest thing to mercy the world had offered all day. The door opened before the sun had fully cleared the trees. Noah woke to the sound of old hinges. His first thought was not of himself. It was Ben. He sat up fast, pulling his brother behind him before his eyes had even adjusted to the pale morning light. The chicken coop smelled of wet straw and cold wood. Rain still dripped from the broken roof in slow, uneven taps. A man stood in the doorway. He was tall but slightly bent at the shoulders, with gray hair, a weathered face, and a flashlight in one hand. His boots were muddy. His coat was buttoned wrong, as if he had dressed in a hurry. Behind him, the yard lay silver with early mist. For 1 second, nobody spoke. Then, the man's eyes moved from the suitcase to the straw, from the straw to Ben's shivering body, and finally to Noah's face. "What are you doing in my coop?" Noah pushed himself to his feet. He was dizzy. His legs felt hollow from walking the day before, but he made himself stand straight. Ben clutched the back of his jacket. "Sir," Noah said, "we weren't stealing." The man's mouth tightened. That's what people usually say after they've been caught where they don't belong. Noah looked toward the thin brown hen perched near the broken nesting shelf. "We didn't take anything, I promise." The man stepped inside, and Ben shrank back. Noah moved in front of him. That small movement changed something in the old man's face. Not enough to soften it, but enough to make him stop. "What's your name?" the man asked. "Noah Miller." "And him?" "My brother, Ben." "How old?" "7." The man looked at Ben again. Ben's lips were pale, and their father's flannel shirt hung around his shoulders like a blanket made for someone larger and stronger. "Where are your folks?" Noah swallowed. "Our father's gone." "Your mother?" "Gone too." The old man studied him. "Gone where?" Noah did not answer. The silence seemed to tell Samuel Briggs more than the boy wanted to say. He lowered the flashlight. "You boys walk here?" Noah nodded. "From where?" "I don't know exactly." "You don't know?" "We were left on a road." Ben made a small sound behind him, and Noah wished he had said it differently. Samuel looked past them into the coop. The old feeder was empty. The water pan was green at the edges. 3 hens watched from the shadows, thin and suspicious, as if they too had forgotten what morning was supposed to bring. "You picked a poor hotel," Samuel said. Noah glanced down. It was dry enough for him. Samuel's eyes returned to Ben. The boy was trying hard not to shake. Children often thought adults did not notice such things. Samuel had spent 34 years teaching school. He noticed everything children tried to hide. "Come out of there," he said. Noah stiffened. "I said come out. Both of you." "We'll leave," Noah said quickly. "I'm sorry. We just needed one night." Ben grabbed his hand. Samuel saw that too. "I didn't say leave the farm. I said come out of the coop." Noah hesitated. Samuel stepped aside, giving them room to pass. The yard was colder than the coop. Ben stumbled when his feet hit the mud, and Samuel reached out by instinct, catching him lightly under one arm before the child fell. Ben looked up at him, frightened. Samuel let go at once. Kitchen, he muttered. Before that little one turns blue. The farmhouse was old but clean. Its white paint had faded to the color of bone, and one shutter hung slightly crooked beside the front window. The porch boards complained beneath their feet. Inside, the air smelled of coffee, wood smoke, and something lonely that had been in the house a long time. Samuel pointed toward 2 chairs near the stove. Sit. Noah sat only after Ben did. Samuel opened a cabinet and took down 2 towels. He handed one to Ben and one to Noah, then set a kettle on the stove. His movements were rough, almost irritated, as if kindness were a tool he had not used in years and disliked finding rusty. Shoes off, he said. Noah looked at him. You want mud all over my floor? No, sir. The boys removed their shoes. Ben's socks were wet through. Samuel saw the peeling sole on one shoe and said nothing. He poured hot water into 2 chipped mugs and added a spoonful of honey to Ben's. Then he took a pot from the icebox and warmed leftover vegetable soup. When he set the bowl in front of Ben, the child stared at it like he did not trust food that arrived without a warning. Eat, Samuel said. Ben looked at Noah first. Noah nodded. Only then did Ben pick up the spoon. Samuel noticed that too. Noah ate slowly, though he wanted to empty the bowl in seconds. He had learned to be careful around adults. Hunger could be mistaken for greed. Need could be mistaken for trouble. Samuel sat across from them with his coffee. Who left you on a road? Noah kept his eyes on the soup. Our aunt. Name? Noah did not answer. Samuel's jaw tightened. Boy, if somebody abandoned a 7-year-old, that is not a small matter. I know. You know? Noah looked up. If you call somebody, they might split us up. Ben's spoon stopped halfway to his mouth. Samuel leaned back. There it was. The real fear. Not hunger, not cold, not even the road. The older boy was terrified of losing the smaller one. You think running from every adult with a telephone is going to fix that? Samuel asked. No, Noah said. But it kept us together last night. Samuel had no answer ready for that. The house fell quiet except for the stove ticking, and Ben eating soup as carefully as if each spoonful might be the last. On the far wall, above a small writing desk, hung a photograph of a woman in a blue dress, standing beside the chicken coop in summer sunlight. She had one hand on her hip and the other holding a basket of eggs. Her smile was direct and bright, almost too alive for the stillness of the house. Ben noticed it. Is that your wife? He asked softly. Noah turned to him, alarmed. Ben. But Samuel only looked at the photograph. Yes, he said after a while. Her name was Margaret. She had chickens? She had everything, Samuel said. Then, as if the words had exposed too much, he stood and carried his coffee to the sink. Finish eating. Noah watched him. The old man's shoulders had changed when he said her name. They had lowered, not from age, but from memory. After breakfast, Samuel gave them dry socks from a drawer and 2 old sweatshirts that smelled faintly of cedar. The sleeves hung past Ben's fingers. Noah rolled his own twice at the wrists. You can stay until noon, Samuel said. Ben looked at Noah. Noah said, Thank you, sir. After that, I'll drive you into town. Noah's chest tightened. To where? To people who know what to do. No. Samuel turned. No? Noah stood, though his knees still felt weak. Please don't take Ben away. I am not in the business of hiding children. I'm not asking you to hide us. Then what are you asking? Noah looked toward the back window, where the chicken coop stood crooked in the morning light. It looked worse now that he could see it clearly. The roof sagged. One side had separated from the frame. The yard around it had gone to weeds. I can work, Noah said. Samuel stared at him. I can clean the coop, fix what I can, carry water, chop kindling, anything. We don't need to stay in your house, just somewhere dry until I figure out what to do. You're 13. Yes, sir. That means you are a child. Noah's face did not change, but his voice went quieter. Not as much as Ben is. Samuel looked away first. He should have said no. He knew that. He had lived long enough to understand how trouble entered a man's life. It came through pity more often than through malice. One exception became 2. One night became a week. One hungry child became a legal problem, a town rumor, a sheriff at the door. But then he looked at the photograph of Margaret. For years, she had kept that coop alive with her own hands. After she died, Samuel had let the hens dwindle, the roof rot, the weeds rise. He had told himself it did not matter. It was only a coop, only boards and wire and old straw. Yet when he had opened the door that morning, he had not found thieves. He had found two boys thrown away into the same forgotten corner where he had left the last living piece of his wife's world. Samuel rubbed one hand over his face. "One day," he said. Noah held still. "Sir, you can work today. You and your brother can stay tonight in the storage room by the kitchen, not the coop. Tomorrow, we decide what happens next." Ben's eyes widened. "Inside?" Samuel pointed a finger at him. "Don't make me regret it." Ben nodded so hard his wet hair fell into his eyes. Noah's throat tightened. "We'll pay you back." Samuel gave a short, humorless laugh. "With what?" "With work." Something in the boy's answer made the old man look at him longer. "Fine," Samuel said. "Start with the coop. But if I catch you lying, stealing, or running off with anything that belongs to me, this ends." "Yes, sir. And don't call me sir every other breath. Makes me feel older than I already am." Noah almost smiled. "Yes, Mr. Briggs." Samuel paused. "I didn't tell you my name." Noah pointed to a small wooden plaque near the kitchen door. It read, "Samuel Briggs, retired teacher, Willow Creek School District." Samuel followed his gaze. "You read that?" "Yes." "What grade were you in?" "7th. "Were?" Noah looked down. "I missed some school after Dad got sick." Samuel heard what the boy did not say. He heard hospital visits, bills, grief, adults too busy failing to notice a child falling behind. He picked up his coat. "Then you can read feed labels too." "Yes, sir." "Mr. Briggs." "Good. Come on." The coop looked even sadder in daylight. Noah began by clearing the wettest straw, carrying it out by the armful, while Ben gathered broken sticks and feathers into a rusted bucket. Samuel expected them to slow after 10 minutes. They did not. Noah worked with the stubborn care of someone who had been waiting for a task that made sense. The world had taken his father, his home, his aunt's mercy, and the certainty of tomorrow. But a dirty floor could be swept, a water pan could be scrubbed, a loose board could be nailed back into place. By mid-morning, his hands were raw. Samuel noticed. He said nothing at first. Then he returned from the shed with work gloves and tossed them at Noah. "They're too big," he said, before Noah could thank him. "But your hands are too small, so I suppose everybody's disappointed." Noah put them on anyway. Ben found the brown hen from the night before hiding behind a crate. He crouched near her, careful not to touch. "She's skinny," he said. "Most things get skinny when no one looks after them," Samuel replied. Noah glanced at him, but Samuel had already turned away. When the old feeder was finally cleaned, Noah read the cracked label on a sack of grain in the shed and measured out a careful portion. Not too much, not too little. He spread it evenly, then rinsed the water pan until the green film was gone. The hens approached slowly. Ben watched as if witnessing a miracle. "They're eating," he whispered. Noah leaned against the wall, exhausted. Samuel stood in the doorway, looking past the boys at the coop he had avoided for years. Sunlight slipped through the broken roof in narrow beams. Dust moved in the light. The place was still ruined, still damp, still hardly worth saving. But for the first time in a long while, it was not silent. That evening, Samuel showed the boys the storage room. It was small, with shelves of jars, old blankets, and boxes of things he had never sorted after Margaret died. But the floor was dry, and there was a narrow cot against one wall. Samuel brought in another folded mattress from the hall closet. "You sleep here tonight," he said. "Door stays open." "Yes, Mr. Briggs," Noah said. Ben touched the blanket with both hands. "It's warm." "It's a blanket," Samuel said, but he did not leave right away. Noah stood beside the cot, unsure what to do with gratitude that felt too large to speak. "We'll be gone if you want us gone tomorrow," he said. "I promise." Samuel looked at him, then at Ben, who was already sitting on the mattress with their father's photograph in his lap. "Tomorrow," the old man said, "is not here yet." He turned off the hall light, but left the kitchen lamp burning. Noah lay awake for a long time, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the farmhouse. Pipes settling, wind brushing the porch, Samuel moving slowly in the kitchen. For the first time since Aunt Linda's car disappeared down the road, Noah did not have to hold Ben to keep him warm. But he did anyway, because a dry room was not a home yet, and Noah had already learned that anything given by adults could be taken back by morning. Noah woke before the sky turned blue. For a moment, he did not know where he was. The room was small and dark, lined with shelves of jars, folded quilts, old tools, and cardboard boxes marked in careful handwriting. A narrow strip of light came from the kitchen, where Mr. Briggs had left the lamp burning through the night. Then Noah felt Ben's weight against his side and remembered. They were not in Aunt Linda's house. They were not on the road. They were inside. That should have comforted him, but Noah had learned not to trust comfort too quickly. A dry room could disappear. A blanket could be taken back. A kind word from an adult could turn into a rule by morning. Carefully, he slipped out from under the quilt without waking Ben. He folded his blanket, straightened the mattress, and placed their father's photograph on top of the suitcase. Then he stood there, unsure whether touching anything else would be considered rude. In the kitchen, the clock above the stove read 5:12. Noah found his wet shoes by the back door. They had dried stiff and misshapen. He put them on anyway and stepped outside. The farm was quiet in the hour before sunrise. Mist lay low over the grass. The chicken coop sat at the edge of the yard, crooked and gray, like something ashamed to be seen in daylight. Noah crossed to it without being told. The hens stirred when he opened the door. One fluttered down from a broken perch, thin feet scratching the floor. The place looked worse than it had the day before, not because it had changed, but because now Noah had enough light to see everything wrong with it. The nesting boxes sagged. The old wire had pulled loose near the bottom. A corner of the roof had opened just wide enough for rain to come through. The feeder was cracked. The water pan was already dirty again. Noah rolled up his sleeves. Work made sense. Work did not ask where your mother was. Work did not decide whether your brother should be sent away. Work simply waited. And if you gave your hands to it, something looked a little better than before. He dragged the wet straw outside first. Then he carried in armfuls of drier straw from the shed, shaking dust from each bundle before laying it down. He scrubbed the water pan again, filled it at the pump, and set it where the hens could reach without stepping in mud. By the time Mr. Briggs came out, Noah was trying to fit a loose board back into the wall. The old man stopped at the coop door. "You always sneak out before breakfast?" Noah turned fast. "I didn't mean to sneak. What did you mean to do?" "Get started." Mr. Briggs looked at the cleaned corner, the fresh water, the pile of ruined straw outside the door. His face gave away almost nothing. "You know how to use a hammer?" "Yes, sir." "Don't say yes just because you want one. I've used one." "On what?" "My dad fixed fences. I held boards for him. Sometimes he let me nail the short pieces." Mr. Briggs disappeared into the shed and came back with a hammer, a coffee can of nails, and 2 boards. "Short pieces, then," he said. Noah took the hammer carefully. Mr. Briggs stayed nearby, pretending to inspect the fence while actually watching every move. Noah knew he was being tested. He took his time. He missed the first nail and hit the edge of his glove. Pain shot through his thumb, but he kept his face still. Mr. Briggs grunted. Again, slower. Noah tried again. This time the nail went in straight. From the house came Ben's voice. "Noah?" He ran across the yard in one of Mr. Briggs's oversized sweatshirts, sleeves swinging past his hands. His hair stood up on one side, and panic was already waking in his eyes. Noah set down the hammer. "I'm here." Ben stopped only when he reached him. "I thought you left." "I wouldn't. You were gone. I was working." Ben looked into the coop and saw the hens moving through the cleaner straw. His face changed, not quite into happiness, but into curiosity. "Can I help?" Noah looked at Mr. Briggs. The old man shrugged. "Can he follow instructions?" "Yes," Noah said. Ben nodded quickly. "I can." Mr. Briggs handed him a small broom. "Sweep straw away from the door. Don't chase the hens. Don't put your fingers near their beaks. Don't ask me if every feather has a name." Ben accepted the broom with both hands. "Do they have names?" Mr. Briggs closed his eyes for 1 second. Noah looked away, so the old man would not see him almost smile. After breakfast, which was oatmeal, toast, and coffee for Mr. Briggs, Noah asked if there was more work. Mr. Briggs leaned back in his chair. "Most boys would ask if they could rest." "We rested. You slept on a storage room floor. It was dry." That answer seemed to bother the old man more than a complaint would have. He looked toward the back window. "The roof leaks over the nesting wall. If it rains again, everything you cleaned will be wet by morning. I can patch it." "With what?" Noah hesitated. Mr. Briggs stood. "Come on." In the shed, he showed Noah scraps of tin, old shingles, rope, wire, and tools that had not been used properly in years. He told Noah what could cut him, what could fall, and what not to touch unless Samuel was standing beside him. He said it sharply, but Noah heard something beneath the sharpness. Rules meant the old man was imagining tomorrow. Not forever. Not even next week. But at least tomorrow. That afternoon, Noah worked under Mr. Briggs's direction while Ben carried small things. Nails, twine, a rag, a scoop of grain. The patch on the roof was ugly, but it covered the worst hole. The loose wire near the bottom of the fence was tied back. One nesting box was cleaned and filled with straw so carefully that Ben patted it like a pillow. "Maybe they'll like it," Ben said. "They're chickens," Mr. Briggs replied. "Not hotel guests." Ben looked at the thin brown hen. "She still wants a nice bed." Mr. Briggs opened his mouth, then shut it. Near sunset, he stood for a long time by the coop door, staring at the nesting boxes. "My wife used to fuss over this place," he said suddenly. Noah stopped sweeping. Mr. Briggs did not look at him. "Margaret said hens laid better if they felt safe. I told her hens did not know the difference between safe and unsafe. She told me that was because I had never been a hen." Ben giggled softly. For the first time, Mr. Briggs almost smiled. "She sold eggs every Saturday," he continued. "Had regular customers, teachers, church ladies, folks who swore hers tasted better than store eggs." "Did they?" Ben asked. "Probably not." Then after a pause, he added, "But people believed they did. That mattered to her." Noah looked around the coop differently then. It was no longer only shelter. It was not only a forgotten building where two boys had hidden from rain. It had belonged to someone. Someone had cared whether the straw was clean, whether the water was fresh, whether small living things felt safe enough to give something back. That night, Mr. Briggs let them eat at the kitchen table. He did not make a speech about it. He simply put 3 plates down instead of 2, then pointed to the chairs as if the boys should have known where to sit all along. Ben ate carefully. Noah ate slower than he wanted. Mr. Briggs noticed and said, "Food is not a test." Noah looked up. "If you're hungry, eat." Ben looked at Noah, waiting. Noah picked up his fork again. "Thank you." After supper, Mr. Briggs took a school book from the shelf by the desk. "You read?" "Yes." "How well?" Noah shrugged. "Fine." Mr. Briggs opened the book and pushed it across the table. "Read that paragraph." Noah did. His voice was quiet at first, but steady. He stumbled on one word, corrected himself, and kept going. Ben sat beside him, proud as if Noah had lifted something heavy. Mr. Briggs closed the book. "You should be in school." Noah's shoulders tightened. "I know. That is not a small problem. I know that too." Mr. Briggs studied him. "Do you know anything besides I know?" Noah looked down, embarrassed. The old man sighed. 3 days. Noah lifted his eyes. "You can stay 3 days," Mr. Briggs said. "During that time, you work in the mornings, read in the evenings, and nobody leaves this farm without telling me. After 3 days, I decide what to do." Ben whispered. 3 days inside?" "In the storage room," Mr. Briggs corrected. But Ben was already smiling. Noah did not smile. Not because he was ungrateful, but because 3 days was dangerous. 3 days was long enough to hope and short enough to lose. "Yes, Mr. Briggs," he said. "We'll follow the rules." The first day passed into the second. The storage room began to smell less like dust and more like soap, because Noah scrubbed the floor, while Ben folded old towels into a neat pile. Mr. Briggs pretended not to notice, but that evening he moved 2 boxes out of the room so the boys had more space. On the second morning, Noah found a feed scoop with Margaret's initials carved into the handle. He cleaned it and set it near the grain sack. Mr. Briggs saw it later and stood very still, thumb brushing the letters. He said nothing, but that night, he left an extra quilt outside the storage room door. On the third morning, frost silvered the grass. Noah was tightening wire along the coop fence when he heard Ben gasp from inside. For one terrible second, he thought his brother had hurt himself. Then Ben came running out of the coop, both hands cupped together as if holding something too fragile for the world. "Noah," he called, breathless. "Mr. Briggs, you have to see this." Noah turned. Mr. Briggs stepped down from the porch, and in Ben's trembling hands was the first sign that the forgotten place was not finished living yet. Ben carried the egg like it was made of glass and prayer. It was small, pale brown, and still warm from the nest. His fingers barely closed around it. He walked slowly across the yard, afraid that one wrong step would crack the first good thing that had appeared since Aunt Linda's car disappeared down the road. Noah dropped the wire he had been tightening. "Ben, what is it?" Ben opened his hands. The egg sat in his palms, ordinary to anyone else, but to Noah it looked impossible. For a moment, he forgot the cold. He forgot the road, the suitcase, Aunt Linda's voice, and the fear that had been living in his chest for days. He only saw his little brother standing in the gray morning with a look on his face Noah had not seen since before their father died. "Wonder. She laid it," Ben whispered. "The skinny brown one." Mr. Briggs came down from the porch slower than usual. At first, he seemed ready to say something practical, that it was only an egg, that hens laid eggs when fed properly, that the boys should not act as if the heavens had opened over one small shell, but when Ben placed it in his hand, the old man went quiet. Samuel Briggs had held thousands of eggs in his life. Margaret had filled baskets with them every Saturday morning, wiping each one clean with a soft cloth before carrying them into town. He had teased her for being too careful. She had told him anything given by a living thing deserved respect. Now, standing beside the coop he had left to rot, Samuel held the first egg it had offered in years. His fingers closed gently around it. "Well," he said at last, but his voice was rougher than usual. "Looks like at least one hen still remembers her job." Ben smiled. Noah watched Mr. Briggs's face. The old man was not looking at the egg anymore. He was looking past it, toward a summer that was gone, toward a woman in a blue dress standing beside that same coop with a basket on her arm. "Can we keep it?" Ben asked. Mr. Briggs blinked. "Keep it? Not eat it. Just for today." Samuel looked at Noah, as if expecting the older boy to correct him. Noah did not. After everything Ben had lost, a warm egg in his hands was not a foolish thing to protect. Mr. Briggs cleared his throat. "One day. Then eggs are food, not decorations." Ben nodded solemnly. "One day." He carried it inside and set it in a teacup on the kitchen table. All morning, the egg sat there between them like a promise. Noah worked harder than before, but not out of fear this time. Fear had pushed him down the road. Fear had made him knock on doors and sleep in straw. This was different. This was work with a shape, work that might lead somewhere. He began with the hens. There were 4 left, not 3 as he had first thought. The 4th stayed hidden behind a broken crate, missing feathers at the neck and limping slightly on one foot. Ben named the brown hen Penny, the gray one Dusty, the white one Pearl, and the limping one Mrs. Limpkins until Mr. Briggs said no animal on his farm would carry a name that sounded like a bad school play. Ben renamed her Clover. Mr. Briggs pretended not to approve, but later Noah heard him say, "Move, Clover," while filling the water pan. By noon, Noah had drawn a plan on the back of an old feed receipt. He divided the coop into things he could fix now, things that needed tools, and things that needed money. The list was crooked and spelled poorly in places, but it was careful. Clean nesting boxes, patch east wall, raise feeder off floor, fresh water twice daily, check fence gap, ask Mr. Briggs about feed cost. When Samuel saw the list, he took it without asking. "You write this?" "Yes, Mr. Briggs." Noah waited. Samuel pointed to one line. "Feed cost comes before fresh paint." "I know. And hens need grit." Noah frowned. "Grit?" Samuel walked to the shed and came back with a small sack. "Helps them digest." Margaret would have scolded me for forgetting. He set it down harder than necessary. Noah added grit to the list. From that day on, Mr. Briggs became Noah's teacher without admitting it. He corrected the way Noah scattered feed. He showed him how to tell whether water had gone stale. He explained why dry bedding mattered, why drafts were bad but air still needed to move, why a frightened hen might stop laying even if she had food. "Hens are not machines," Samuel said one afternoon. Noah glanced at him. Mr. Briggs looked annoyed with himself. "Your brother was right. They like a decent bed." Ben, who was sweeping near the door, grinned so brightly that Samuel turned away. The first egg was followed by none the next day. Ben checked the nest 6 times. "Maybe Penny forgot," he said. "She didn't forget," Mr. Briggs replied. "She's a hen, not a clerk missing an appointment." On the 3rd day, there were 2 eggs. By the end of the week, there were 7. Not enough to change a life, but enough to change breakfast. Mr. Briggs scrambled 3 of them in butter on Saturday morning. Ben watched the pan as if it were performing magic. Noah ate slowly, tasting something richer than food. He tasted effort. He tasted proof. After breakfast, he said, "We shouldn't eat all of them." Samuel looked over his coffee. "No? We could sell some." Ben sat up. "Like your wife did?" Mr. Briggs's hand tightened around the mug. Noah almost told Ben to be quiet, but Samuel only stared out the window toward the coop. "There are only 4 hens," he said. "There could be more later," Noah replied. "If we save." "Save for what?" "Feed first. Then maybe chicks, or repairs." Mr. Briggs leaned back, studying him. "You planning to run my farm now?" Noah's face flushed. "No, sir, because I've done a poor enough job of it myself. Maybe I should be warned." Noah looked down. "I just thought if they gave us something, we shouldn't waste it." The kitchen went still. Samuel set his mug down. "Margaret used to say that." Noah did not know what to answer. The next Monday, Mr. Briggs drove them into town. Noah sat in the passenger seat, holding a small basket with 6 eggs wrapped in a towel. Ben sat in the back with their suitcase at his feet. Though Noah had told him they were coming back, Ben still carried the suitcase whenever they went farther than the barn. Town looked different from Mr. Briggs's truck than it had from the road. There was a barber shop, a church with a red door, a feed store, a diner, and Avery's grocery with green letters painted across the front window. Mrs. Helen Avery stood behind the counter, silver hair pinned neatly, glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. She knew Mr. Briggs. Everyone seemed to know Mr. Briggs, though few looked used to seeing him with 2 boys. "Samuel," she said, "haven't seen you in here before noon in a long while. I needed coffee." "You always need coffee. You don't always bring children." Noah stood straighter. Mr. Briggs grunted. "They have eggs." Mrs. Avery looked at the basket. Ben whispered. Penny laid the first one. Noah closed his eyes for half a second. Mrs. Avery smiled. Not a big smile, but a kind one. "Did she?" Ben nodded. "She was very proud." "I'm sure she was." Noah placed the basket on the counter. "They're clean. We checked them. There are only 6, but if you don't want them, that's all right." Mrs. Avery opened the towel and examined them. "I remember Margaret Briggs bringing eggs in here. She used to argue with my husband about whether brown eggs looked prettier in a basket." "They do," Ben said. Mrs. Avery laughed softly. Mr. Briggs looked out the window as if he had no part in this conversation. "How much are you asking?" she said. Noah froze. He had thought about selling, but not about price. Mrs. Avery saw it and named a fair amount. More than Noah expected. He looked at Mr. Briggs to see if it was too much. Samuel gave the smallest nod. Mrs. Avery counted the money and placed it in Noah's hand. It was not a fortune. It was not even enough to buy much more than feed and maybe a little flour. But Noah stared at it as if it had weight beyond coins and bills. It was the first money he had earned since being left. Not given in pity. Not dropped into his hand by someone wanting him gone. Earned. "What will you do with it?" Mrs. Avery asked. Noah answered without hesitation. "Buy feed." Ben added. "And maybe 1 candy?" Noah looked at him. Ben quickly shook his head. "No. Feed first." Mrs. Avery's expression changed. She reached under the counter and took out 2 peppermint sticks, placing them beside the basket. "These are not from your egg money," she said. "These are from me." Noah hesitated. Mr. Briggs said, "Take the candy, boy. Pride is useful. Starving it is not." Noah took them. "Thank you, ma'am." Outside, Ben held his peppermint like a treasure. "Can we come back next week?" Noah looked at the coins in his palm. "If the hens do their part, and we do ours," Ben said. That became the rule. The hens did their part. The boys did theirs. Every morning, Noah rose before Mr. Briggs and checked the water, feed, fence, and bedding. Ben gathered eggs with both hands, whispering encouragement to the hens as if each one needed personal thanks. Mr. Briggs pretended to disapprove of this, but began saving clean cartons in a stack by the pantry. At night, Noah read from the school book. At first, Mr. Briggs only listened. Then he corrected him. Then he gave him spelling words. Then math. Noah complained about none of it, because school at Mr. Briggs's kitchen table felt different from school before. It was not a place where people noticed what he lacked. It was a place where someone expected him to grow. Ben learned too. He wrote the hens' names in crooked letters on scraps of paper and taped them above the nesting boxes until Mr. Briggs said the chickens could not read. "They might like seeing their names," Ben said. "They lay eggs, Benjamin. They do not admire signage." But the name stayed up. By the second week, The coop had changed enough that Noah sometimes stopped outside just to look at it. The door still leaned, but it closed. The roof still needed work, but it no longer dripped over the nests. The hens had clean water, dry straw, and a little yard where they scratched at the dirt in the afternoon sun. The farmhouse changed too, though more quietly. Mr. Briggs opened curtains that had stayed closed for months. He cleaned Margaret's old egg basket and gave it to Ben. He found 2 unused mugs in the cabinet and placed them beside his own. He stopped eating standing at the sink and sat at the table instead. One evening, after supper, Noah rose to wash dishes. Mr. Briggs said, "Leave them." Noah paused. "I can do them." "I know you can. Sit down." Noah sat slowly. Mr. Briggs pushed a notebook across the table. On the first page, he had written, "Miller Brothers Eggs. Feed cost. Repairs. Savings." Noah looked at the words for a long time. "You wrote our name. That is generally what one does on a ledger. But you wrote Miller." Mr. Briggs looked uncomfortable. "It is your name, isn't it?" Noah nodded. For weeks, their name had felt like something people sighed over. A name attached to bills, grief, and inconvenience. Seeing it written at the top of a clean page, beside a plan, made Noah's throat tighten. Ben leaned over. "Are we a business?" "No," Mr. Briggs said. Then he looked at the notebook. "Not yet. They started with 12 eggs a week. Then 18. Then 24. Mrs. Avery bought what she could and told 2 church ladies. The church ladies told a retired nurse. The retired nurse told the diner owner, who said he would try a dozen if the boys could bring them clean and unbroken. Noah learned to wrap cartons with twine. Ben drew small chickens on paper labels. Mr. Briggs said the drawings looked like potatoes with beaks. Ben said that was rude. Mr. Briggs said honesty often was. But he drove them into town every Monday and Thursday. People began to notice. Some smiled. Some whispered. Some asked too many questions. A man outside the feed store asked Noah if Mr. Briggs had put him to work, and Noah felt the old fear rise. Before he could answer, Mr. Briggs stepped beside him. "Noah works because he said he would," Samuel said. "There's a difference." The man lifted both hands. "Didn't mean anything." "No," Samuel replied. "Most people don't until after they say it." Noah looked at him then, really looked. For the first time, Mr. Briggs was not only allowing them to stay, he was standing beside them in public. That night, Ben fell asleep in the storage room with a peppermint wrapper under his pillow and Margaret's egg basket beside the mattress. Noah stayed at the kitchen table, writing numbers in the ledger while Mr. Briggs checked them. "You're off by 12 cents, Samuel said. Noah frowned and added again. Mr. Briggs waited. Most adults corrected by taking over. Mr. Briggs corrected by staying until Noah found the mistake himself. At last, Noah circled a number. "Here. Good." Noah leaned back, tired but pleased. After a while, he said, "My dad used to say work tells the truth." Samuel looked up. "Did he?" Noah nodded. "He said people can talk all day, but work shows what they mean." Samuel was silent for so long that Noah wondered if he had said something wrong. Then the old man closed the ledger carefully. "Your father sounds like a man worth remembering." Noah looked down at his hands. He was. Outside, the hens settled into their clean straw. The wind moved softly against the repaired wall. The farm was still old. The boys were still not safe in any legal way Noah could understand. Mr. Briggs had still made no promise beyond one day becoming another. But the house no longer felt empty, and the coop, once forgotten at the edge of the yard, had begun giving back exactly what Noah needed most. Not money, not even food. Proof that something left behind could still become useful, wanted, and alive. By the end of the 3rd week, that proof had traveled farther than any of them knew. It passed from the grocery counter to the church steps, from the diner kitchen to the feed store, from one curious neighbor to another, and eventually, like all news in a small town, it reached the wrong person. Aunt Linda heard it on a Friday afternoon while buying flour at Avery's grocery. 2 boys, Miller boys, staying out at Samuel Briggs's farm, selling eggs, doing well. The woman who had once left them beside a dirt road stood very still beside the flour shelf. Then she turned toward Mrs. Avery and asked a question that made the grocer's smile fade. "Did you say Noah and Ben Miller?" Aunt Linda arrived at Briggs' farm on a Sunday afternoon. Noah saw her car before anyone else did. He was outside the coop, tying fresh twine around 3 cartons of eggs for Mrs. Avery's Monday order. Ben was kneeling near the fence, sprinkling grain for Clover and Penny, talking to them as if they were church ladies who needed polite conversation. The sound of tires on gravel made Noah look up. At first, his mind refused to understand what his eyes were seeing. The pale blue car came slowly up the lane, clean and polished, its tires rolling over the same mud Noah had dragged his suitcase through weeks earlier. It stopped near the porch, and for a moment no one stepped out. Then the driver's door opened. Aunt Linda emerged wearing a pressed coat, gloves, and a face full of concern she had not owned the day she left them on the road. Ben froze. The grain slipped from his hand. Noah stood up so quickly the egg cartons nearly tipped over. "Noah?" Ben whispered. "Go inside the coop," Noah said. "But, Ben, now." Ben backed toward the coop, eyes locked on Aunt Linda. Mr. Briggs stepped out of the barn with a coil of wire in one hand. He saw Noah's face first, then followed his stare to the car. The old man's expression hardened. Aunt Linda walked toward them as if arriving for a visit she had been invited to. "Noah," she said. "Ben." Noah did not answer. Ben half hid behind the coop door. Aunt Linda looked at Mr. Briggs. "You must be Samuel Briggs." I'm Linda Carter, their aunt. I know who you are." Her smile faltered. "Then you understand I've been worried sick." Noah stared at her. The words were so false they seemed to make the whole yard colder. "Worried?" he said. Aunt Linda's eyes sharpened. "I came as soon as I found out where you were. You left us." Her mouth tightened. "That is not a conversation we are having in front of strangers." Mr. Briggs took one slow step forward. "There are no strangers here except the woman who abandoned 2 children on a dirt road." The color rose in Aunt Linda's cheeks. "I did no such thing." Ben made a small sound from the doorway. Noah turned slightly, enough to see him, not enough to take his eyes off Aunt Linda. "She gave us $3.47, Noah said. Then she drove away. Aunt Linda looked at Mr. Briggs, not at Noah. "He is a child." He was upset. Children misunderstand hard decisions. Samuel's voice went flat. "I taught school for 34 years. Children misunderstand fractions. They do not misunderstand being left beside a road." For the first time, Aunt Linda's concern cracked. "I had no choice," she said. "I was overwhelmed. I was trying to find help." "You found a gravel road," Noah said. Aunt Linda ignored him. Her eyes moved to the coop, the repaired fence, the stacked cartons, and the small hand-painted sign Ben had made from scrap wood. "Fresh eggs." Then she looked at Ben. "Come here, sweetheart." Ben did not move. Noah stepped between them. Aunt Linda gave a sad little sigh, the kind she used to perform in grocery aisles and church hallways. "This is exactly what I was afraid of," she said to Mr. Briggs. "You've turned them against me." Mr. Briggs laughed once, without humor. "Lady, you did that before I knew their names." Her face hardened fully then. "I am their legal relative." Noah felt those words like a door slamming. Mr. Briggs did too. Aunt Linda reached into her purse and pulled out folded papers. "Their father is dead. Their mother is gone. I was the one who took them in. Whatever mistakes were made, I am still family." Ben whispered, "Noah." Noah turned toward him. "It's okay," but it was not okay. He knew enough about adults and papers to know papers could do things truth could not. Papers could move children from one room to another. Papers could put a child in a car. Papers could say who belonged where, even when everyone's heart knew differently. Aunt Linda looked toward Ben again. "I came to take him home." Noah's breath stopped. Mr. Briggs said, "Him?" Aunt Linda nodded. "Ben is too young to be kept on a farm by an old man with no authority. Noah is nearly grown. If he insists on working here, perhaps that can be discussed. But Ben needs proper care." "No," Noah said. Aunt Linda turned. "This is not your decision. He's my brother, and I am the adult. You weren't when you left him." For a second, nobody moved. Then Aunt Linda's voice dropped. "You watch how you speak to me." Mr. Briggs stepped beside Noah. "He's speaking better than most men would." Aunt Linda folded the papers again. "I don't want trouble, Mr. Briggs, but I can call the sheriff. I can call county services. I can tell them you have 2 boys working here, selling eggs, staying in your house without any proper arrangement." Noah looked down at his hands. They were scratched from wire, red from cold water, and stained with feed dust. Hands that had worked because work meant staying. Now she was turning that work into something ugly. Mr. Briggs's jaw flexed. "They are fed," he said. "They are warm. They are safe." "Safe?" Aunt Linda looked around. "In a chicken coop? They sleep in the house. So you admit they stay here." "I don't hide what I do. Maybe you should." Ben began crying then, silently at first, with both hands pressed to his mouth. Noah moved toward him, but Aunt Linda did too. "Ben, sweetheart, come here." Ben backed away. "No," he said. It was the smallest word, but it shook. Aunt Linda stopped. Her expression turned wounded, almost convincingly. "You don't mean that." Ben's eyes filled. "You left us." I was confused. "You said there was no home." Aunt Linda's lips parted, but no answer came. Noah put his arm around Ben. Mr. Briggs looked from the boys to Aunt Linda, and seemed, for the first time, uncertain. Not morally uncertain, legally uncertain. That frightened Noah more than anger would have. Aunt Linda saw it too. "I'll give you until tomorrow," she said. "Either Ben comes with me peacefully, or I start making calls." "You do that," Mr. Briggs said, "and I'll make some calls of my own." "To whom?" Samuel's eyes were cold. "People who remember what kind of woman leaves children in ditches." Aunt Linda's face flushed. She turned sharply and walked back to her car. Before getting in, she looked once more at the coop, the egg cartons, the clean yard, and Ben clinging to Noah. Something bitter crossed her face. She had expected them to be worse off. That was what Noah realized. She had come prepared to find them dirty, hungry, grateful, easy to collect. Instead, she had found them standing beside something they had helped bring back to life. The car door slammed. The blue car rolled down the lane and disappeared. Only then did Ben start sobbing out loud. Noah crouched in front of him. "She's gone. She'll come back." Noah had no lie ready. Mr. Briggs stood very still, the coil of wire hanging forgotten in his hand. That evening, nobody ate much. The kitchen table looked the same as it had the night before. 3 plates, 3 glasses, the ledger near Noah's elbow, Margaret's egg basket on the counter. But the air had changed. The room no longer felt like a shelter. It felt like a place waiting for someone to knock. Ben refused to let the suitcase out of sight. He dragged it from the storage room and sat with one hand on the handle, as if Aunt Linda could pull him away if he stopped touching it. Mr. Briggs watched him for a long time. Then he stood and went to the hallway closet. He returned with a small brass key and opened the roll-top desk beneath Margaret's photograph. From the back drawer, he took out a wooden box. Noah had seen it once before, but only closed. Samuel set it on the kitchen table. Inside were old letters, school badges, newspaper clippings, photographs, and a pair of reading glasses that must have belonged to Margaret. The old man moved through them carefully, searching for something he did not yet name. "What are you looking for?" Noah asked. "Proof." "Of what?" "That I'm not just an old fool who let trouble in because the house was too quiet." Noah looked down. "We can leave." Mr. Briggs stopped. "No." The word came harder than either boy expected. Noah lifted his head. Mr. Briggs closed his eyes briefly, then spoke more quietly. "No, you don't solve every problem by disappearing. I don't want you to lose the farm. This farm was already lost in every way that mattered before you boys came." Ben sniffed. Samuel looked at him. "Don't look so surprised. I know what this place was." He picked up a clipping, glanced at it, then set it aside. Noah stood. "If she calls people, they'll split us up." "Maybe." Ben made a frightened sound. Mr. Briggs added quickly, "And maybe not. Not if the truth gets there first." "What truth?" Noah asked. "That she left you. That you have been cared for here. That you are not being used. That you have a place." Noah wanted to believe him, but belief felt dangerous. "Will that be enough?" he asked. Mr. Briggs did not answer. That was answer enough. Later, after Ben finally fell asleep on the storage room mattress with the suitcase tucked against the wall, Noah crept back to the kitchen. Mr. Briggs was still at the table. The wooden box sat open. Papers lay in small piles. A yellowed newspaper clipping rested beneath his hand. Noah stopped in the doorway. "You should sleep. So should you." "I can't. Neither can I." Noah came closer. Mr. Briggs looked older under the kitchen lamp. Not weak, exactly, but worn in a way Noah had not noticed before. The kind of worn that came from carrying memories too long without speaking them aloud. "I'm sorry," Noah said. "For what?" "For bringing trouble." Samuel looked at him sharply. "You didn't bring trouble. Trouble was done to you." Noah swallowed. "She'll take him," he said. Mr. Briggs tapped the newspaper clipping with one finger but did not look down at it. I spent most of my life telling children that fear gets smaller when you face it in daylight, he said. Turns out I was only half right. Some fear waits until night and grows teeth. Noah did not know what to say. Samuel pushed the clipping toward him. Read the name in the second paragraph. Noah bent over the paper. The print was faded. The headline spoke of a storm, a washed-out bridge, a school bus, and local men who had helped pull people from floodwater. Noah read slowly until his eyes found a familiar name. Thomas Miller. His father's name. Noah stopped breathing. Mr. Briggs stared at the clipping as if the past had reached across the table and put a hand on his shoulder. I knew your father, he said. Noah looked up. Outside, the wind moved against the dark windows. In the storage room, Ben slept with one hand on the suitcase. In the coop, the hens settled into the straw the boys had laid down for them, and under the yellow kitchen light, Samuel Briggs finally remembered why the name Miller had been haunting him since the day those boys stepped into his farm. Noah read his father's name 3 times before he believed it. Thomas Miller. The letters were faded, pressed into old newspaper paper that had yellowed at the edges, but the name was clear. It sat in the second paragraph beneath a headline about a storm Noah was too young to remember. Local men rescue teacher and students from flooded road. Noah looked at Mr. Briggs. What is this? Samuel did not answer right away. His eyes stayed on the clipping, but he was no longer seeing the kitchen. He was somewhere else, years back, under a black sky with rain coming down so hard the world had lost its edges. It was late October, he said at last. Worst storm we'd had in years. I was still teaching then. Drove the small school bus after classes because the district was short on drivers. Noah sat slowly. I had 6 children with me. Thought I could make it over the low bridge before the water rose. I was wrong. Samuel's hand trembled slightly as he touched the edge of the paper. The engine stalled halfway across. Water came up fast. The children were crying. I was trying to keep them calm while figuring out how to get them out without losing one to the current. Noah could almost hear it. Rain hammering metal, children sobbing, water beating against the bus door. Then a truck stopped on the hill, Samuel continued. A man got out with a rope. Young man. Strong. Foolish enough to come into water no sensible person would step near. My dad, Noah whispered. Samuel nodded. He tied that rope around his waist and came across to us. One child at a time, he helped me get them out. Last one slipped. Your father went under after him. Noah stopped breathing. He saved the boy, Samuel said. And then he saved me, because by then my leg was caught against the step and the water had knocked me down. The old man's voice broke there, quietly, as if the crack had waited years to open. He could have died. Noah looked down at the clipping again. My dad never told us. No, Samuel said. He didn't seem the kind who would. What happened after? I tried to thank him, tried to give him money. He wouldn't take it. Samuel's mouth softened at the memory. He said, just help someone else when the time comes. The kitchen went silent. Outside, the wind pushed gently against the window. Noah thought of his father's rough hands, the way he came home tired but still made time to fix Ben's toy truck, the way he said work tells the truth. He had always known his father was good, but goodness inside a house was one thing. Seeing proof that the world had once needed him, and that he had answered, made Noah's chest ache in a new way. Mr. Briggs folded the clipping carefully. I forgot his name, he said. Not what he did, never that. But the name slipped into the years. Then you boys came here, and I kept thinking Miller sounded familiar. I should have known sooner. Noah shook his head. You didn't owe us anything. Samuel looked at him. Yes, he said. I did. The next morning, Aunt Linda returned just after 9. This time, she was not alone. A county officer came with her, a tired-looking woman named Mrs. Callahan, who carried a folder and wore no expression Noah could read. Behind her truck came Mrs. Avery from the grocery, though nobody had invited her. Then came Mr. Harlan from the feed store, and the retired nurse who bought eggs on Thursdays, and 2 churchwomen who had once argued over Margaret's brown eggs. By the time Aunt Linda stepped onto the yard, Briggs' farm was no longer quiet. Noah stood on the porch with Ben beside him. Ben held the suitcase handle in one hand and Noah's sleeve in the other. Mr. Briggs stood one step below them. Aunt Linda looked around at the small crowd and stiffened. I did not come here for a town meeting, she said. Mrs. Avery folded her arms. No, but you seem to have earned one. Mrs. Callahan lifted a hand. Everyone calm down. I'm here to understand the situation. Aunt Linda began first, of course. She spoke about grief, stress, money, misunderstanding. She said the boys had run off after a family argument. She said Mr. Briggs had no right to keep them. She said Ben was young and impressionable, and Noah was angry enough to twist the truth. Noah listened without moving. Every sentence made him feel smaller, but he did not interrupt. His father had once told him that truth did not need to shout if it had roots. When Aunt Linda finished, Mrs. Callahan looked at Noah. Is that what happened? Noah's mouth went dry. Ben's fingers tightened on his sleeve. Mr. Briggs turned slightly. Tell it straight, son. Son. The word was quiet, but Noah heard it. He looked at Mrs. Callahan. She said she couldn't keep both of us. She talked about sending Ben somewhere else. Then she packed our things, drove us out past town, gave me $3.47, and left us beside a dirt road. Mrs. Callahan wrote something down. Aunt Linda's face flushed. He is leaving out context. Mr. Briggs stepped forward. There is no context that makes abandoning children acceptable. Then he handed Mrs. Callahan the newspaper clipping. This does not make me family by blood, he said, but their father once saved my life and the lives of children in this town. When his boys came to my farm, they did not ask for money. They did not ask for comfort. Noah asked to work for a dry place where his brother could sleep. Mrs. Callahan read the clipping. Mrs. Avery spoke next. Those boys have been in my store twice a week. Clean eggs. Honest money. Polite as church bells. Mr. Harlan nodded. Noah buys feed before he buys anything for himself. The retired nurse added, Ben was afraid the first time I saw him. He isn't afraid here unless she shows up. Aunt Linda turned sharply. You people don't know what it costs to raise children. Mrs. Avery's voice cooled. We know what it costs to throw them away. Noah looked at Aunt Linda then. For the first time, she did not look powerful. She looked surrounded by the truth she had expected to stay hidden. Mrs. Callahan closed her folder. There will need to be proper steps, she said. Temporary placement. Review. School enrollment. Legal guardianship cannot be decided in a yard. Ben began to shake. Noah pulled him close. But, Mrs. Callahan continued, looking at Mr. Briggs, given what I've heard and given the children's statements, I see no reason today to remove them from a safe, stable home where they are being cared for. Aunt Linda's mouth opened. Mrs. Callahan looked at her. And I will be documenting your admission that you were overwhelmed, along with Noah's statement about where they were left. I admitted no such thing. You said enough. A silence settled over the yard. Then Ben whispered, We can stay? Mrs. Callahan looked at him, and for the first time her face softened. For now, yes. Ben turned and buried his face against Noah. Noah closed his eyes. Mr. Briggs looked away quickly, but not before Noah saw the wet shine in his eyes. Aunt Linda stood very still. Her gaze drifted to the coop. The repaired door, the clean straw visible through the wire, the small sign Ben had painted, the egg cartons stacked neatly for delivery. She looked at Noah's scratched hands, at Ben's fuller cheeks, at Miss Briggs standing beside them like an old fence post that would not fall. Something changed in her face. Not enough to erase what she had done, not enough to make Noah trust her, but enough to show that she understood, at last, that the thing she had thrown away had not stayed broken. Her eyes filled. I didn't know what else to do, she said. Noah looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, You could have not left us. Aunt Linda lowered her head. Noah did not say it cruelly. He said it because it was true. And truth, spoken plainly, was heavier than revenge. The months that followed did not turn life into a fairy tale. There were forms to sign, meetings to attend, school records to fix, and questions Noah hated answering. Mr. Briggs had to prove his house was safe, his income steady enough, his intentions clean. Mrs. Callahan returned more than once. Sometimes Ben hid when he saw her truck. Sometimes Noah still woke before dawn with the fear that everything had been a dream adults could take back. But each time, Mr. Briggs stayed. He enrolled Noah back in school and sat across from the principal with his old teacher's posture, refusing to let anyone talk about the boy as if he were a problem to be filed. He bought Ben new shoes, then pretended the price annoyed him more than the tears in Ben's eyes. He repaired the storage room properly. Then, one Saturday, without a speech, he moved 2 small beds into the room and painted the door blue because Ben said blue felt safe. The chicken coop grew stronger too. With egg money, donated lumber, and Mr. Harlan's help, the roof was replaced before winter. More hens arrived in spring. Ben named every one. Mr. Briggs complained about every name and remembered them all. Noah kept the ledger. He wrote every sale, every feed purchase, every repair. At the top of each new page, he printed the same words Mr. Briggs had written first. Miller Brothers Eggs. 1 year after the morning, Samuel Briggs opened the crooked coop door and found 2 boys in the straw. The farm looked different. Not new, better than new. It looked lived in. The porch had been swept. The kitchen curtains stayed open. Margaret's egg basket hung by the door, used every week. The coop stood straight under a clean roof, with sunlight touching the nesting boxes and hens scratching happily in the yard. On a warm Saturday morning, Noah held a hammer while Ben held a wooden sign against the fence. "Higher," Ben said. Noah lifted it. "Like this? A little crooked. I'm trying to make it straight. But if it's too straight, it won't look like us." From the porch, Mr. Briggs snorted. "That may be the strangest design principle I've ever heard." Ben grint. Noah nailed the sign into place. Miller Brothers Eggs. Fresh eggs, honest work. He stepped back. For a while, none of them spoke. Noah thought of the dirt road, the suitcase, the pancakes Aunt Linda made the morning she let them go. He thought of his father's name in the old newspaper, and the rope tied around a young man's waist as he stepped into floodwater to save people he did not owe. Maybe goodness worked that way, Noah thought. Not like lightning, like seeds, dropped in one season, hidden for years, then rising when someone needed shade. Behind him, the farmhouse door opened. Mr. Briggs stood on the porch with one hand on the frame. "Breakfast is ready, boys." Ben ran first, as always. Noah stayed by the sign a moment longer. The word boys reached him across the yard. Not guests, not strays, not trouble. Boys. He looked at the coop, at the hens, at the sign carrying his family name, and then at the old man waiting on the porch. For the first time in a long while, Noah did not wonder where he and Ben were supposed to go. He already knew. He picked up the egg basket and walked home.